one of the things we say all day is Black Americans are not a monolith. Black people are not a monolith. And it hit me in our conversation. We're not a monolith, but we sure as heck are a tribe.
Yeah.
And we don't know that because we don't exist within a country that uses such terms. We talk about, "Oh, we're all American except if you're immigrant." And you have your culture, your ethnicity in that way. We talk about ethnicities, but we've never talked about it in terms of tribe. And when I started to think about that, it began to make sense to me how we might move in an insular way,
Mm.
and how we might not move in an insular way because we are a collective that has existed in a society that has treated us like a tribe, but has also forced us to see ourselves as individuals and to pursue like
Mm.
rugged individualism to the detriment of our community.
Today we have a very special guest, and their name is Dr. Tracie Gilbert. Dr. Tracie Gilbert is an educator, a writer, a researcher, a consultant who talks about the pursuit of sexual healing and liberation for Black people. She's trying to get us free, y'all. She's also the author of a book, Black and Sexy, a framework for racialized sexuality. And what are we talking about today? We're talking about Diaspora Wars. And quite frankly, I think it's past time that we actually have this conversation. So without further ado, I like to start off just getting the feels. I just want to know, like, how are you feeling? How are you coming
I
into this
love
conversation? What's coming up?
this. Yes, so I'm definitely feeling chill, but simultaneously excited.
So for people who don't know about, like, I guess, Diaspora Wars, what
Yeah.
would you say they are? How would you let them know what it is?
As I see it, it's the ways that various Africans within the diaspora attempt to make sense of what has happened to all of us
Mhm.
and the discord that those things have caused between us. So it's it begins with the perception that uh we are separate from each other, that we have no true connections other than competition, other than pain and sorrow, um and as a result, it's important we fight to try to make sense of it, and we fight to try to heal, and we fight to um yeah, to try to position ourselves within the political structures that we have been succumbed to. So that's my roundabout way of understanding it.
That's a beautiful definition, and one that I'm sure is gonna come to some level of pushback because somebody somewhere is sitting there talking about, "I ain't no African."
And there's gonna be a bunch of people that be like, not everybody's African. What do you even mean? Not all y'all ain't African, right? So there's that.
Right. Because 'Cause I'm hearing when you said it, I heard, "Oh, the global African
Yeah.
diasporic experience," which
Which
like, we are on the same page, but
yeah.
we're inviting people to be in the book,
Yes. Like, come
not
to
the
the
page.
book, right? Like, there's a reason we're all black. Like, and it's not just melanin.
At what point does an African who creates progeny become Black American?
And that's the question, right? Um, so part of my desire to stay out of the whole debate is because
Mm.
one thing I have learned as someone who grew up, so I think it's probably important for me to stake my claim in this discussion and to put my identity out there so listeners are like, well, how does she even speak to this? So politically, I recognize, and tribally, now that we've had that discussion, I recognize myself as being Black American. Though, very much in terms of my own understanding of myself, I identify as a descendant of Africans enslaved in the United States because I recognize there are folks whose families did not originate from that system
Mhm.
who very much, have identify as Black American, and they have the right to do so. If they were born here, they have their as American citizenship. They perceive themselves as being part of this particular culture compared to their own or compared to their families of origin, then absolutely, that's how they identify, and I recognize that that's a different experience. And so for me, um, it really boils down to the individual. I identify as a descendant of Africans because I also recognize that if my family had immigrated here, and didn't go through what it went through, my ancestors would still be like, "You are Nigerian. You are Ghanaian. You are South African," right? And so, For me, it is important to my understanding of my lineage to name that even if I cannot identify the specific geographical region, I am a daughter of that legacy and I have a right to claim that. And
Mm.
so, I think it really does boil down to the work that each individual of us within the diaspora does to determine which is more salient, what's more salient to me, what's more resonant to me, how do I want to identify, and then um how do I navigate this conversation from that place of identity? So
Whew.
yeah.
My parents both immigrated first, as far as I know, to Belgium.
Mm,
They were going to try London, where so many Nigerians seem to land, and my mom hated the rain, and so they went back to Belgium, and no one believed them when they said that they were able to immigrate to America because at the time, nobody was getting in.
mm,
So for me, I was born and raised in the nation's capital.
mm, mhm.
So I'm like, I'm a DC girl. I was born, I was raised there, grew up on mumble sauce and jollof rice.
Yeah.
So for me, that is how I'm approaching the conversation. I'm approaching it as a Nigerian American.
Mhm.
Um, and context wise, I'm just like, I've only been to Nigeria twice.
Yeah.
I've been to Jamaica more, and nobody would tell me I'm Jamaican.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you said that. In the course of my life, I have been confused. Like I've had twice that I've been confused for another ethnicity. Once it was Nigerian and once it was Jamaican. And I was like, I don't know anybody in them areas. But if you say that's where my people from, then I believe you.
They
Okay.
be like, "Oh, it's the slope of the forehead, nose. It's something about your chin."
Right.
Right? People they will engage in
Mhm.
and
She's
just
like,
looking
are
at the
you
face
sure
and
you're
just be
not
like,
Nigerian? No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm not Nigerian. I'm sorry. I can't tell you.
like, "I'm not sure.
I
Could be."
I could very well be.
I like that you said different experience because what I often get is just not black. So, like, there
Mhm.
was this video, this guy basically saying that he will sleep with all black people, but he will not marry someone who does not descend from slaves from here. And I was just like, I wonder how one justifies using people until one finds the one that they want to be with
Yeah.
and dismiss somebody because you don't think that they are black enough.
Yeah. And we know that happens all the time, and it's kind of I've never heard that before. That's really interesting. I think I kind of as I was telling you my different lenses, I realized that there's a little bit of a difference in terms of what I said and what I actually mean. So for
Mm,
me, when I think of Black America, I think of it as a cultural experience. The
yeah.
cultural experience that's rooted in like similar traditions, similar, attitudes, kind of the sense of knowing that when you see a black person, we already know what it is, right? We can make the faces,
And
we can
do
do the things, right?
doing that
Um,
head nod when you're in some place where it's just like, hey, I see you.
I
You see
see you.
I've seen you.
What
So if something happened, know that
right,
you've been
right,
seen.
right. There are those things. When I talk about being Deas, I recognize that is probably actually more of the political history for me because of the specific, to use one of my old professor's terms, the specific psychic violence that came from being a descendant of that system. To where I still believe that there are unique repercussions that have faced Deus Black folks,
Yeah.
that continue to this day to not be fully understood and very rarely respected. I think in 2020,
Mhm.
seeing the murder of George Floyd, having that conversation come to the fore, I think there was some discussion, but it still did not fully get into the weeds of
Yeah.
things, um, such that I could, in theory, see someone say, well, this particular person, I presume that they know me. They know that my lived experience better and can relate to me on that level.
Yeah.
Um, but that's also just weird. Like I'm also just like I'd be curious to see what their thinking is and wouldn't want to think too much for them because I'm just like I've seen it the other way as well, right? So
Yeah.
I my first master's degree was in international studies And I went to university with mostly the only other programs in my division were, I think Latin American studies and African studies. So and
Mm.
most of those students, they were there from Ghana and Kenya and Nigeria, Senegal, like from all over. And we would have all of these amazing conversations. And I could tell that, like, yeah, we're friends. You are attracted to me, but you're not taking me home. You're not taking me home to your family and like really doing that connection because of
Word.
something back there that's going on when you see me versus my friend Denise, my friend, my friends Adana, my other friends that were from their same countries, right? And so I
And
do
that is the tribalism that I think that people
yes.
get
Yes.
mixed up.
So I
So
think
they think
maybe
it's
that's it.
anti-Americanism or anti-Black Americanism, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"No,
That's the
Yoruba don't
only
even fuck with
thing.
Igbo people like that." And
Yeah.
they're all in Nigeria.
Yeah.
I'm
I
like, "A
mean, I
bunch of
think
people in
that's the
Nigeria don't
only
fuck with each other."
thing right, right, right. I think that's the only thing I could imagine that person who made that video kind of experiencing, this
Yeah.
sense of tribal which I love going back to the conversation we had before this and the things that kind of opened my eyes. I don't think I really ever thought about Black Americans seeing ourselves as a tribe until you and I had that discussion. Because one of the things we say all day is Black Americans are not a monolith. Black people are not a monolith. And it hit me in our conversation. We're not a monolith, but we sure as heck are a tribe.
Yeah.
And we don't know that because we don't exist within a country that uses such terms. We talk about, "Oh, we're all American except if you're immigrant." And you have your culture, your ethnicity in that way. We talk about ethnicities, but we've never talked about it in terms of tribe. And when I started to think about that, it began to make sense to me. A lot of different things made sense to me that I hope we get to in this conversation, but I think it really did make sense to me um, how we might move in an insular way,
Mm.
and how we might not move in an insular way because we are a collective that has existed in a society that has treated us like a tribe, but has also forced us to see ourselves as individuals and to pursue like
Mm.
rugged individualism to the detriment of our community. So, yeah, I think it's a really kinda convoluted, complicated discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I like that what you said about, like, the psychic injury?
Yeah, the
Is that
psychic violence.
Yes, the psychic violence
Mhm.
of those who are direct descendants from those who were enslaved.
Yes.
And for me, I also wonder then about what is the psychic violence of being almost prisoner in your own home versus being taken from your home? Because Nigeria was freed in the 60s,
Yeah.
right? Like it just came out from under British colonial rule. And so I'm just like, do people think them free because they were there?
Yeah. Well, I do think there is a presumption around, and I've since seen certain things where I'm like, I think a lot of us need to get don't need to realize we're not as free as we think. But
No, because
I think
if
there
we were free, I think other shit
yeah.
would look very different.
Yeah. I think the psychic violence is a matter of apples versus oranges versus bananas versus papayas, etcetera.
It's all fruit though.
Right? It's all fruit. But what I do think is the presumption of that a lot of Black Americans have for folks on the continent, it's that, well, at least you know where you came from. At least you know. The presumption is that you know your family lineage. But then there's also so I remember when I went to Kenya for the first time.
Mm.
That was my one trip to Africa. I was going, that was my one moment to be like, I'm going back home. Although I realize it's like you go to your aunt's house. You're not actually home and it's weird. And you're like, this is cool, but I'm ready to go back. But I will never in my life forget what it was like to go to the grocery store, turn down the hair care aisle, and only see my face. Like I almost cried in that aisle because like that, right? Like a sense of worth that you get that is presumed that you get being in a place where you are the majority, the physical majority. So many of us outside of places like DC, Atlanta, New York, maybe get those experiences. And even then, you
Mm.
still, those are still bubbles within the larger sphere that
Yeah.
is whiteness. And so I think I know, because this is also part of my healing journey, much of it is really the emotional damage that has occurred for so many of us, the unchecked emotional damage that has occurred
Mm.
that, while I don't discount that, for any other group in the diaspora, it is what makes it distinctive. It's what makes it the apple. It's like, yeah, like to have to unlearn that well, see, I don't wanna get too much in the weeds, 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, y'all have to unlearn that y'all hair nappy ain't nappy too." Like, y'all gotta unlearn stuff too, but you
And do because I think that like people don't know that when we talk about like skin bleaching creams, for example, I'm like, who's
correct.
the number one user, right? People will
Yeah.
tell you India. They will go everywhere. I'm like,
Yeah.
Nigeria is
Yeah.
winning. Nigeria, we know carry last, so and it's just like
Yeah.
you didn't consider the ways in which they already think themselves already unbeautiful
Yeah.
and lacking that they need to fix these things.
Yeah.
And also to sort of fix them by aligning with America, which has been the superpower.
Correct. Correct.
What would you say seems to be the desire of the people who engage within the Africa diaspora war type conversation? Like what is the desire here?
Yeah. My hot take, this is why I stay out of it. My hot take is that folks wanna heal, but they want vindication. They wanna heal through other people vindicating their experience. They want people to say, "Oh, I see you. You had it bad. I see you. How can I help you?" And the
Mm,
hard truth of the matter is that we've all we've all had our experiences, and simultaneously, we've had little to no space to truly understand that we've all had our experiences and to truly
mhm,
understand what those experiences are like. And so I think anytime folks honestly, a lot of it is emotion. A lot of it is like our unhealed younger selves who are like, "Listen, my this was hard. This was hard. This was hard." And we're screaming in spaces that are not conducive to therapeutic healing. They're not conducive to catharsis. And we're expecting people to mirror back what we need, and it's not the space for that.
mm. I
And
mean, I feel like you gave this answer to this question. The question is like, well, then how would you say the rise of social media helps shape the discourse around diaspora wars?
yeah.
And it sounds like it's like,
Well, I think the problem with social media is that and I know people love to see they say social media has done a lot. I do think it does a lot for the folks like it's like money. You get what you put into it, right? Like social media can be a great educator, it can be a great enlightener, it can be a great community organizer for folks who are coming to that.
yeah,
The vast majority of us are not coming to that. We come to be entertained. And what in and what the algorithm's gonna do, what these media makers do, what content producers do, is they produce things that get you riled up. And so it's not
rage bait.
listen, like
You're
it's
saying
not
that online is rage bait.
like and on like and when you look at it like I knew I had to get off when I was clear. I was like, "Y'all are actually trying to address issues by debating. You're debating to feel something inside of you that feels like you are, again, vindicated, that you feel right, that you feel better than, that you feel like, oh, I beat that person and I made them feel wrong and I made them feel small." And
Mm,
it's like, but you're not actually trying to find solutions. You're not actually trying to find resolution. You're not actually trying to find
mm,
um the matter that you can then take home and do the work to unpack. And
mm,
so, social media could be a lot more. As it stands, it's nothing and it's getting worse, right?
yeah,
So, I think there's that, but also one quick thing I wanna throw in because I hope we get to it, but if we don't, I also wanna name it. I think part of the issue too is that we have this cultural conversation that we're trying to have within a political landscape that is very much unbalanced, unfair, and needs reconciliation in a way that people don't understand. So we've
Ooh,
got right? Like, okay. Well, and this is the like, and so this is the conversation. Part of the reason I have learned to really ground myself within the Deist piece, political identity, is because of the conversation that we're having, especially the conversations now that we're having around resources in this country,
yeah.
around the persistent, ways that capitalism destroys our lives and destroys our economies, and the ways that it has not reconciled for the historical damage it's done with the Black American tribe, right? And
Oh,
so, you know, people talk about capitalism, and I think people get a little frustrated about when people bring up the discussion of slavery, often because people kind of embody that idea of like, oh, it happened long ago. America abuses everybody. America does this, that, and a third. Okay, first off, yes, that happened a long time ago, but what we have to understand is that slavery was the first capitalist structure. It was the structure, it's the capitalist structure on which this country is founded. And
yes. This
so
capitalism is slavery-based capitalism.
right,
It's not pure capitalism.
correct.
Whatever purity we think we have, it's
Correct, correct. And so that there's that, but
mm,
then we have to understand, like, once slavery ended, at no point in the history of Black American or Deist folks was that made right. And in fact, it was consistently made worse because after we had the ending of slavery, we had Reconstruction for about 3 years where Black folks were starting to make some advance. In this case, I loosely say Black folks to refer to Deus because Deus is, just but go with me. We had where Black folks started to come back and get their things, but then right after that, we had Ku Klux Klan and we had the destruction of Black American financial communities. We had riots, we had lynchings, we had all of these things happen, and that happened from say the 1860s right on up to like the 1940s and 50s and 60s. So when you talk about Nigeria getting emancipation, yeah, that's when we got ours too, right? However,
so basically about the same time.
about the same time. However, what happened after Black folks got that? We got 1968, we got the Civil Rights Act. We started seeing, Black folks getting into like academia, being able to start Black studies programs and all of those things. What happened after that? The war on drugs. And the war on drugs combined with the influx of crack and gang epidemics and HIV decimated all that progress that Deist communities were making. So if you look at LA, you look at New York, Newark, Baltimore, DC, all of those places, Milwaukee, Chicago, there's not a single urban Black community that was making progress that is the same the way it was before that all happened. And that went well into the 2000s, and so a lot of like whole Black folks in those communities are gone. They died, they're in prison for drug charges, for gang charges, and we know what happens once you're in prison. Once you have a record, being able to come out and advance, that's not happening, right? Or it's not happening as well as it's supposed to. And so, like, to me, that's when we get into the conversation around like how advanced have we been, right? We've been able culturally to do a lot. We got hip hop, we got all these things that make it look like Deus folks are winning. But when we look at the math,
I'm
the
at that.
math is not adding up. And
And I
so,
would say similar
yeah,
for the continent,
yeah,
right?
okay,
Like, it's
yeah.
like emancipation
Hmm.
with most of Nigeria's oil coming here,
Mm, hmm.
right? I'm
Hmm.
thinking about the things that make life possible here. Like, it's been a conversation. Like, we've talked about Palestine, and people are like, hey, none of you are talking about Congo.
Correct.
Like, none of you are really
Correct.
talking about Sudan.
Correct.
And it's
Correct.
like, well, yes, is this not does this count as part of the conversation?
Yeah.
Because ultimately what I'm hearing is that the white supremacist delusion is to blame for all of our troubles, but we keep blaming each other. That is what I'm
Bing,
hearing.
bing, 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 bing.
Like, we're looking for validation from each other, but I think that validation, that recognition that there has been harm all around,
Yeah.
right? Because like some people are surprised to find that I think that American descendants of slaves
Mhm.
should receive reparations. I don't know why people are surprised to hear that I would say something. It's not radical. I'm looking like It sound to me
And
like
yet it
a
is.
motherfucker owes you money.
And
That's
yet
that's
it is.
that's all I hear.
Right.
That's what I hear. I hear
Yeah.
someone owes you money and you should have your money. And
Yeah.
some people have been equally surprised and say, and America owes a lot of places money.
For
I
real.
think they should pay you first because you're at home.
Right. Right.
But I'm looking like in the end of the day, Nigeria would still get money.
Yes.
Benin would still get money. Togo
Absolutely.
would get money. I'm looking like
Haiti. Haiti. Listen.
everybody would
Listen.
get a little something, something, and then America wouldn't have shit.
Which is really what it boils down to. So when we that brings me to the current conversation around what's happening economically, right? Um, I do believe that non-black folks, because now we're bringing in the piece around anti-blackness, because
Word.
I maintain to this day that there's not a single thing that is happening to the general body of Americans right now that did not first happen to black people, and I mean all
Always
of us,
happens
right?
first.
Every single thing, right on down to like, oh, they're locking up the toiletries at the Target. They've been doing that in the hood since the 90s.
I'm looking like for as long as I can remember, you get
Forever.
like
What do you
the
even mean?
tide is behind the glass.
Listen, okay, I was in Baltimore just the other day, and I was like, "These aren't new shelves where the deodorant is. These aren't new shelves. It's been there locked up." Okay, at this point, now it's like you lucky if you got a full store, like full supplies in the store. That's what's happening in the hood. So why you talking to me about locking up? What happens when that happens, right? But but I think it was easy to ignore when it was just us, right? Because especially when it was like, well, we're just going to fight each other about why this is, and we're going to say, we're going to believe that, oh, well, you get privilege because you're this and you're that, and white people like you, and you get privilege because you're here and you're a citizen, and da 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 da, when it's like none of us have it. None of us really have it at all.
Yeah,
None of
it's
us
more
have
like
it.
you have privileges in these ways. These people have privileges in those ways.
Right. You have
But
twisted
ultimately,
privileges, but when
nobody
you talk
really
about
has
math.
like your privilege is not privileging you
Right,
very
your privilege is they like you. That's it.
word. And they like you today. But
Right,
they
they
may
like
not like
you
you
right
tomorrow.
now. Yes, that
Right?
right.
So like in the current political climate,
Yes.
you've got Trump in office, rounding people up, indigenous people included,
Listen,
and saying like all these all
listen.
these immigrants, if someone accuses you of committing a crime, he wants to refurbish Guantanamo Bay
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
to be 30,000 deep in
Yeah.
immigrants.
Yes.
Immigrants.
Yes. And then what
Because
you say.
that's the other piece because there's a fight against the 14th.
Yes. But here's something else that's also really wild. So when because we're in the second iteration, right? So in 2016, when this all started to happen, 27, 2018,
Mhm.
I was right away, my gut was like, get your passport. And make sure all your paperwork is in chart. And what while Deus folks are acting like, well, this ain't got nothing to do with me,
Can you
baby. Where's
define
the
deist for us again?
yes, descendants of Africans enslaved in the US. So Black Americans who aren't immigrants,
So,
basically.
like, similar to ADOS, American
Yes,
Descendant.
but I don't I don't
Yeah.
fuck with that term. I'm sorry, I cursed. I don't know if that's your thing, but
Hey, cuss away.
okay. I don't fuck with that term, and I don't fuck with their politics either at all. Um, but my first thought
Why?
was like,
Because we gonna come back to that. I wanna know why, but go on.
okay, but like, where's your birth certificate, boo? Where your birth certificate? Where your mama put your social security card? Do you know?
How you know my mama had it?
Because everybody, every
Yeah,
black person, that's where they go. And it's like we talk about, we're all like, oh, I'm good. I good. You don't even know where your stuff at. What you mean you good? They come to your house and they can't find it, and then you born here, but all of a sudden you with the immigrants too. So now what? And it's like at this point, things are so sloppy. And in some places, like if you born in the South, some places, depending on where you born, they ain't even got the records correct. Like, and this is what I know from having done my, starting to do my ancestry and pull my charts together and realizing just how jacked up some of the record keeping was.
yeah,
In terms of like the census takers not spelling people's names right, not getting the relationships properly in the home. If you've never done that work, you don't actually know what you can find and what you can't find. You got your birth certificate, but where mama's at? Well, mama was born somewhere in Mississippi, and that office either closed or the person was handwriting stuff and it's sloppy and they can't find your records. Now what? The reality is
now
that
you
all of this
become an
stuff has
immigrant
blown up.
too,
Right.
for the intents and purposes of rounding you up because
Correct.
you took on Guantanamo.
Correct. Correct. And
And
so and I'm not
oh,
saying it to as, like, for people to be strategic, because even when I recognize, like, I did it because I personally am trying to, quote, in my feeble attempt to protect myself,
mm,
I'm very much clear that we are all in this together, period. We are all in this together. There is not a single thing that I can say that is gonna protect me looking at my precarity, right? If you ain't a billionaire, you in this. Period. You are
hey,
in this.
and I don't even know if being, like, a Black billionaire would protect you. I'm looking like
Okay.
because at this point, it's just like,
Okay, like,
you white? Like, are you white once removed? Twice
and I'm
removed? Like,
questioning honestly, at this point, because I told you all the things that I feel like affected, Black wealth, right?
yeah.
But I'm also looking at Black billionaires like, how much debt you got? Are you actually a billionaire? Because when we look
Oh,
at
are you a
debt
billionaire on
numbers,
paper?
right? Are you just on paper? Is your worth a billion? But when you look at the hard numbers, you can only get access to 50 million, right? That sort of thing. That's
Well, that's a
also a
whole
real
different question.
conversation that we're not having because 'cause we're having stupid debates around like, "Oh, well, Target don't wanna fund Black businesses." Okay, okay, but also, can we even withstand them by ourselves? Who got resources? Who got them?
Wow.
So and that actually I can real quickly answer that question for you around why I don't fuck with the, ADOS. It's because of that. The presumption that my experience of folks who identify as ADOS is that it really is about distancing themselves from this experience and saying, "Oh, well, I'm an American citizen. I've got a good job. I'm educated. I'm this, that, and the third." And it's like, "No, baby. If you were standing on a bus stop and you had nobody would know all of that about you. And when the rubber meets the road, yes, you've done all the good things, you've done all the right things, but if you are not rich, meaning that you have sustainable income on your own, you are not immune from any of this. And that like a lot of those folks are folks in the military. We already see what's happening with their like folks who are like, "Oh, I got my good pension." Okay, now when the stock market finally crashes, then what do you have? You don't have it. You
And
think
dreams.
you have it, and you are clinging as a political strategy to this carcass, but that it is not sustainable. We see it.
Oh, you just said it's dead.
Terrible.
It's not just dead. It's
Yeah.
already rotted.
It's been it well, now because it's been dying since 2016. And I think I told you when the last time we talked, when that first election happened, I said, "Oh, America's having a closeout sale because ain't no way my people know these white folks. We know that, and we know they don't give up nothing that they deem as as valuable. They don't give up nothing that they perceive as truly valuable. These new white folks, these new ones, the evangeline one, and the business tech bros, these new ones got some stuff planned, but the old guard, the ones back when W was the worst that we could deal with, when they put their hands off of it, that's when I knew. I said, "Oh, okay, we're at the end.
Like,
We are
oh,
at the very end."
that there is no trouble,
And
trouble,
so
trouble.
what are they doing? Liquidating. And they're liquidating. Now
Yeah, it does feel like a fire sale. Like,
yeah,
all
yeah,
things must go.
yeah.
It must go
And
today.
we're and why I say these are kind of new white because I think at the end of the day, I believe that they're grasping at straws. I
Mm,
believe that they're I believe in my gut that they think they're about to have something that is gonna withstand them, and they're gonna be and it's not gonna sustain itself. It's
no,
not we are no longer in a space because we have enough of a critical mass of folks who know what's going on and are and believe enough in their own autonomy to say, "Listen, I ain't gotta stay and do this." That it's not gonna sustain itself. That if nothing else, people don't even have the stamina to keep going like what's going on. Like
no.
slavery back
We are
then.
in peak burnout.
Right,
We
you
are
people
in
ain't even in
peak
shape
burnout.
enough.
We had I mean,
People are not in
pandemic
shape.
to I'm looking like the shit has been never ending.
Yeah, I'm like, people are not even in shape enough to do the things that would be required to keep capitalism going the way it went at the beginning of slavery. Like, no, you're not gonna be able to do that. You're not gonna be able to do it. And so, yes, and I don't wanna make light of it because it's hurting, it's going to hurt. But
Yeah.
at the end, the people will win, period. The people are going to win. And so that's why I said it. We're having a closeout sale because them old white folks, they knew they were like, we're done here.
Can
And
it
that's why
just
you
be
had Harrison
over? I
Ford.
love the way that you just put that, like,
Yeah.
and so casually. Because I wanna point it out, like, the people will win. I was just
Mhm.
like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Because
People
that right there,
win.
I was just like, the people will win.
Yeah.
I know that somebody needs to hear that.
Yeah.
The people will win.
Yeah.
People are scared, right? Like,
Oof.
rereading the parable of the sower.
I mean, I
And I'm just
am too.
like, if you, I'm like, reread it, but don't stop where it's
Yes.
convenient
Go
because
to
the
the end.
people win.
The people
In the
win
end,
in
the
the
people
end.
win. It's
Yes.
unsustainable. And I mean, yeah, I mean, America is at the same age. Is at the age where this shit is supposed to top
Correct.
for a little bit.
Correct.
And I'm looking like, you know what still exists? Great Britain. It's still there.
Listen,
It's
China
a little
is
tiny
chilling,
island across the sea.
right?
This
And
shouldn't
you know
modulate
what?
the present tea.
Yes, and this and it actually this is another thing I took away from our old our the first conversation, because one of the beautiful things that I think social media did, specifically social media like TikTok, but I think we need to continue to lean into it, is that it did help Black folks see a world outside of their own trauma. Right?
Mm.
And Black Americans in particular, to recognize like, "Oh, there is a place called Palestine, and they are actually dealing with jacked up things." I think, yes, that has always been here, but I think social media allowed people to see in real time what was going on and to not see the warped narratives that we've been given. And so
Mm.
I think how we get to that place where we win, we all win, is if we continue, Black Americans in particular, continue to recognize ourselves as global citizens and to
Mm.
really be able to see that and to have hope in that, right? So, for example, recognizing that like all this week, people have been protesting throughout the world against
And they
the
are
current
not
regime,
showing it.
right? And not knowing it, but like, yet these people see us, right? They see us, and it's not just we are in this alone. It's like, no, there are places out here that see us, that value us, that that recognize that we want to be, that we have an opportunity to still be in community outside of these idiots, basically. And I mean that in literally in terms of like the lack of intelligence, because I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be afraid of literal idiots. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
I think that people forget the word diaspora
Yeah.
or
No,
diaspora.
no, a lot of times
However
they don't
people
even
are
know what that
pronouncing it, I
is.
just want to say diaspora. Right? So, like, I think that people forget what that means. It is the dispersion of,
Yes.
but that means it would also include the home base from where
Yes.
one comes.
Yes.
How do these divisions affect mental health and self perception of people within the diaspora?
Ooh, it perpetuates a false sense of isolation and a false sense of separateness. And I will say, there is a conversation to be had about the African diaspora, but I think this piece also speaks to the human diaspora, right? And the fact that yes, we Black people are the literal lifeblood of this world, and
Mm.
also we are not the only people in this world who have things to offer it, and we have the ability to make synergy with all peoples on the planet. Again, this psychic violence has beat into us the idea that no one is here, that no one is available to us, and that we are on our own to save ourselves. And while it is true that no one can really save us from an individual sense, the
Yeah.
reality is that collectively we can all save ourselves and be together, right? Like we save ourselves in community. We save ourselves in relationship with each other.